Are you corrupt?
Around the time it finished, I saw a review of the TV show Vikings that described it as both fascinating and frustrating. I think that's a good summary. Broadly speaking, I think you can compare it to another 2010s TV show, Game of Thrones. It's generally first half good and second half increasingly dodgy and difficult to take seriously. The "Are you corrupt" speech that I'm going to talk about in this video is from Season 3, the creative peak of all 6 seasons. Season 3 benefits from all the setup that came before it. Ragnar has gone from farmer to explorer to earl to king, and his dreams of England are starting to take shape. He has an ally in the shape of King Ecbert of Wessex, who has promised the Vikings land to begin their own settlement. Egbert's offer comes with strings attached. He wants the Vikings to fight with Wessex so that they can choose a puppet king for another English kingdom. Ragnar agrees, and over the first 3 episodes of the season, we see the lead up to and the battle itself, in which the Vikings are victorious and capture the rival king. Episode 4, Scarred, is about the aftermath of the battle and its personal and political implications. For Ecbert, the episode begins in bed with Lagertha, who says she's having a great time, but he's a bit self-centered. For Ragnar, we first see him lying on the riverbank, tending to his wounds after the battle, where Quenrith, now Queen of Mercia thanks to the Vikings, urinates on him in an attempt to get his attention. The 2 main players, the 2 kings that we're going to see later, both start in completely different contexts with women from each other's countries and won't be seen together until almost the end of the episode. In the meantime, we see other people's thoughts. Athelwulf tries to befriend Rollo and Floki but gets rebuffed. Floki is concerned about Christianity encroaching amongst the Vikings. Ecbert tries to save Athelstan's soul and tells him not to return to Kattegat with the Vikings. So we see the characters coming to grips with the new military and political reality, culminating in the victory feast, where after a while, Ragnar sits down next to Ecbert.
What will you do with Mercia?
Ragnar takes control of the conversation. Ecbert replies he's going to crown Quenrith and her brother Bergred.
It makes sense. You see how they feel for one another. Why choose between them?
Anyone who's ever had 2 bosses knows this is rubbish.
They will not rule in any case.
Ecbert looks a little frustrated here because Ragnar's stating the obvious.
Then who will, Ragnar Lothbrok?
Ragnar continues with an approach that feels both direct and antagonistic.
You will. For you have given them the crown.
We shift to the second part of the conversation, where Ecbert is managing Ragnar. The important thing for me is that there will
Be stability in the region.
Ecbert emphasizes
Will be stability in the region.
here he sounds what I guess we would describe in modern speech as corporate. And it's a big contrast to Ragnar's very direct approach.
The important thing for you is that Wessex will have power in Mercia.
Ragnar sounds petulant here, like he's a new king, which he is. He's not used to the politics. Or is he just pretending? Is he seeing if Ecbert is going to keep up his end of the deal now that the Vikings have come through? Yes, Wessex gets power in Mercia, but it's not as though Ragnar gets nothing, and Ecbert reminds him of this.
Actually, the really important thing for me is...
Ecbert explains the deal to Ragnar. Ragnar helped him in the conquest of Mercia, and the Vikings get to have a settlement
in the very heart of my kingdom.
This is by far the longest utterance of the conversation. Ecbert sounds like he's teaching here. Ecbert feels like the adult in the room. Ragnar feels like the child, pushing and prodding and poking and trying to get a reaction. And not only is this disagreement threatening the ongoing basis of their political and military reliance, you have to remember where they physically are right now. They're in a dining hall, surrounded by Ecbert's men and Ragnar's men. For Ecbert, if this conversation escalates, things could get physically dangerous extremely quickly. The deal they made and Ragnar's wish to have a settlement.
If you remember, it was one of the first things we ever talked about.
After sounding all teachery and school marmy, Ecbert slows down.
You and I, we understand each other.
Now, he's appealing to him man to man.
That is why we are allies and will remain so.
There's a long pause here. We see them framed from behind, and Ragnar leans in, more intimately, more conspiratorially.
Do you think you're a good man?
Like at the beginning, Ragnar takes control of the conversation again. Perhaps he knows he's come across badly. He was thinking about that in the long pause. He shifts the conversation away from politics to something more personal.
Yes, I think so.
Ecbert turns the question back on Ragnar.
Are you a good man?
A slight pause here after Ecbert says you. Is Ecbert uncomfortable with replying to the question? Does Ecbert want to make Ragnar feel uncomfortable? Does Ecbert think that Ragnar knows that Ragnar's behaviour has been bad, has been unkingly? Whatever it is, Ecbert chooses to live in the discomfort and asks Ragnar if he's a good man.
Yes. I think so.
Ragnar continues.
Are you corrupt?
The English king takes his time replying.
Oh, yes.
Things suddenly take an intimate turn.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Small smiles from each of them as they speak, not looking at each other. So the tension is diffused, the relationship is mended, and things are temporarily happy between Ragnar and Ecbert. And I think there are two possible takes you could have on Ragnar's outburst, his choice to be so antagonistic at the beginning of this scene. Basically, I think it could be real. He's lost control of his emotions for whatever reason temporarily, or alternatively, he's testing Ecbert to see what his reaction will be to putting the relationship under stress. I'm reminded of a scene earlier in the series where Ragnar was in the court of the king of Northumbria, where Ragnar was totally cool under the threat of violence, continuing to eat as his warriors prepared to fight. He knows, he has experience of being in the court of a foreign king. Why would he incite something here? Why would he try and rile Ecbert? Is it an actual lack of control? Is it the pressure of kingship getting to him? Since that scene in Northumbria, we've seen him rise, as discussed, from the farmer to the king. The number of lives he's responsible for just seems to grow and grow. You could read it either way. It's the new king losing control, or Ragnar, the judge of men, trying to test the measure of Ecbert. And we know from later episodes that Ragnar doesn't really have the measure of Ecbert. He's not in control in this relationship. But by asking each other, are you a good man? Are you corrupt? They've mended the relationship, at least for the moment. After all, they're the only kings in the room, so they're the only people who can truly understand each other. So it's a fascinating scene and frustrating, because the mere question, are you corrupt? Looking at this from a 21st century Western perspective, we know what this question is. Are they running their states for their own personal material benefit? This is a show set in 8th century Northern Europe, and effectively there are no countries, no states like they are today. Power is an entirely personal thing. That's the thesis of the series. We've seen this in Ragnar's rise from his farm to his current kingship. It's been based on his personal influence. His desire to explore has naturally led to Ragnar acquiring political power, because that's the only way he can satisfy his curiosity. Ragnar and Ecbert and every other king we see in this series, or that we read about in early medieval Europe, keeps their kingdom together, collects taxes due to their own personal authority. Also, there's no such thing as retirement plans, personal pensions, or corporate speaking tours after they leave the position. They're stuck as kings for the rest of their lives, which probably won't be very long. They've got all the responsibility. Of course, they take the material benefits. But it's a testament to the writing of the scene and the actors that we can overlook this anachronism and just enjoy it as a piece of entertainment. So, what do we learn from this? Egbert is the more polished king. In 21st century terms, he'd interview better. He's had the media training. Ragnar has become king, but maybe he's not enjoying it. And finally, it's lonely at the top. They might be kings, they're still just blokes at a party. Thanks for watching.